Hey, everybody. This week I want to talk about gratitude. And I feel like that's appropriate because it's Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving gratitude, pretty much synonymous. And more specifically with gratitude, I want to talk about how it relates to some of the principles in ABA. And so this isn't necessarily about clinical programming for your kiddo, but more about kind of like gratitude in our everyday life and therefore some of the behavior analysis that's happening in our life every day and understanding gratitude from a maybe a clinical perspective, at least a behavior analytic perspective. So that's what I intend to do today. Um, Real quick, one of the things I think we hear frequently is that gratitude is the healthiest emotion. And we are pushed sometimes, or perhaps if you've read any self-help books or follow any self-help podcasters, they're going to tell you that gratitude's healthy. You should keep a gratitude journal. You should list what your blessings are and what you're grateful for. And that's definitely true, because if you do those things, you're actually improving your kind of state of being, your quality of life to an extent. So what's happening though when you do that? Like, how do we interpret that behavior analytically? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So basically, what you're doing when you are listing out the things that you love. One of the things I like to do in a journal is just put down, I love this and I love that. I love my kids. I love my kids' giggles. I love my kids' laughter. I love wrestling with my kids, things like that. What you're doing is you're actually pivoting your attention towards something in your life that is potentially reinforcing. What you're doing is listing your reinforcers. The interesting thing about human beings is that we can completely bypass and completely overlook reinforcement on most days. We can completely forget about our reinforcers because we wanted something else to happen. Sure, I want $1,000,000, but does that mean I'm going to be grouchy until I get $1,000,000 and then I'm going to be happy? Maybe I want a trip to the Bahamas or a new car. Not a lot of the reinforcers that we want aren't really available to us. A lot of our motivators aren't really available to us. I think you can probably think of a few things that you would like that you don't have. And what happens though is that we sometimes obsess about these reinforcers that we do not have, that we don't have access to. And what happens? Well, what happens with the kids that we work with? We experience ratio strain. And so, man, I want to be over here. I want to be doing this thing. I want to be in a different job or in a different car or on a different vacation or have a different size bank account, for example. And we consider that, we dwell on that, we think of that, we attend to that. And what happens over time is we gradually get more and more grouchy. It wasn't supposed to be this way. And we experience ratio strain. The reinforcement that we want, we can't have, or it's delayed, it's taking too long, or it's requiring more effort than we thought it was going to. And so in that delay, in that effort, we're like, okay, this sucks, right? That's what happens. We experience ratio strain. The interesting thing, though, is that human beings have the ability to pivot and actually notice reinforcers in their environment. And that's what a gratitude exercise is doing. You're basically writing down your own reinforcer inventory and you're saying, I'm thankful for it, or I love this, or thank you, God, these are blessings, things like that. And so what happens is your brain pivots away from the reinforcer that's out here and not getting it, and starts to see in this very room. I can think of this. I'm thankful for my BCBA certification. It's right there. It's something I don't usually say that I'm thankful for every day, right? I'm thankful for the fact that I have this fake fireplace that I'm doing this podcast off of, so I actually can stand up and you can see my face. Like, there's all kinds of things everywhere that if you walk into a room, walk into a new setting or environment, you can keep your eyes peeled and be thankful for them. And what it does is it pivots your attention from that massive reinforcer that you don't have to the things you do have and readily available. And our brains kind of keep score, right? Our brains are kind of like, okay, do I have a lot of things that make me happy? Or am I missing the things that make me happy? And if you become too obsessed about some of these reinforcers, like more money or a better career or a better car, that you might not have right now, or may never get, hopefully you get them, you're going to experience that ratio strain. But these gratitude exercises, all it does is it's basically a personal reinforcer inventory where you're writing these down and you're saying, thank you for these things. I'm happy I have these things. And it pivots your attention. So your brain, which was formerly telling you, hey, your life kind of sucks. The reinforcers that you want, you don't have. You can't get them. So you should be grouchy. Your brain pivots to, hey, you actually have a lot of reinforcers. Like, they're everywhere. Like, look, let's go into this room. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of reinforcers over here. Let's go into this room. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of reinforcers over here. Let's look at this person, talk to that person, look at your phone contacts, get on social media. Oh, thank God for that person. Thank goodness for this post. There's all kinds of things constantly happening in your life that actually are pretty positive. It's just a matter of pivoting towards them. The other piece to this is that when you do the gratitude exercises, you are teaching yourself a private event behavior, sort of, where you are pulling your attention away from the reinforcer that's out there and bringing it to the present in what you have right now, what's reinforcing to you right now. And what that does, if you do that enough times, it works that muscle sort of pivoting towards what you have now, seeing the reinforcers, the blessings, the things that you value right now, as opposed to looking out ahead and valuing what you don't have. And it works that muscle. It's no different than a skill we teach some of our kids. You're teaching yourself the skill of entering an environment and seeing the good in it, the blessings in it, the reinforcers in it, the things that you value in it. And you're teaching yourself to do that hundreds of thousands of times, potentially, if you continue to do the gratitude exercises. And you're teaching yourself to do it across settings, so that when you're in a tough spot, you don't totally lose your head into despair, and you don't totally end up with just this egregious heavy ratio strain where you're just grouchy or just really, really sad. It puts you in a spot where your first instinct, almost naturally, like a knee-jerk reaction, a habit, you have this habit of entering these situations that might be tougher, but seeing the positive no matter what. The happiest people are not the individuals with access to the reinforcers that they want when they want them. We know this. People with money are still depressed. You hear this, all the time. It's the individuals who have the ability, who work the muscle of pivoting towards what they have right now, pivoting towards the reinforcers that are available to them right now, and even pivoting towards things that might be even neutral in value, sort of. Maybe they've never noticed before, but then they say, you know what, I like that thing. Like maybe there's a birdhouse in your backyard. You didn't put it there. It was there when you moved in. And you look out there and you notice in the springtime, past couple of years, there's a little bird that moves into it. And then there's little birds that fly away eventually. And it's something most of us don't even think about, like birdhouses, right? But, you look at it, you're like, that's kind of cool. I like that birdhouse, and I like the little birds in it. And it makes me happy. And I know that sounds corny potentially. But the point is everywhere in your environment, you can probably find some stimuli that was formerly neutral that you paid no attention to. And you could look at it and be like, you know what? I'm really glad that's there. I'm really glad I have that. I'm really happy about that. And so working that muscle and working it continually, that's going to be a predictor of your own personal happiness, as opposed to achieving those reinforcers. I think it's really interesting that I like to watch sports. I'm a huge IU basketball fan. We had a coach, Bobby Knight. If anybody's familiar with him, highly volatile, highly competitive, and really was the kind of guy that really was mostly happy when he maybe when he won. The good news was that motivated him to win all the time. Bad news was maybe he wasn't as fun to be around when he wasn't winning, or when he was waiting on getting that win. And so some of your most competitive people, some of the people that achieve the most success, oftentimes come with this tinge of a little bit of ratio strain, a little bit of grouchiness, or a little bit of anxiety, or a little bit of despair when they haven't reached those goals. And more power to them, because they're willing to go through that to reach the goals they want to reach. but oftentimes they do so at the expense of their own personal happiness, most of the time, and sometimes at the expense of their relationships as well, because people don't really want to be around somebody who's grouchy and angry all the time because they didn't get their reinforcer. And so this is why Thanksgiving is important. This is why gratitude is important. And this is why people are pushed to do these gratitude exercises, and I would encourage you to do it as well. Go after those big goals, but also remember what you have. And you'll notice that the reinforcers at the end of your life are going to be a lot different than the ones you think you need right now, probably. I more often than not, people on their deathbed never say, I wish I would have worked more hours and made more money. They usually say, I wish I would have spent more time with family. I wish I would have been a better husband or a wife, things like that. And I'm not lecturing you on your personal life by any means. And then this is a little bit more philosophical than it usually is for a Friday Flat Rock Weekly. But this is a holiday week. I think gratitude is important. I am grateful for Thanksgiving. I'm grateful to be reminded that gratitude is important. And fun fact, it fits into the entire structure of behavioral analytic principles. And I thought I might highlight that. Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Get back at me with any questions. Share this. Have a wonderful holiday weekend.